It's the Full Court Press with Eric Frandsen and Jason Walker.
Welcome back to the to the show that we're doing right now.
Following the local teams, breaking down the biggest games with in-depth analysis and team interview. Join the show by calling into 435-752-1069 or text 435-339-0321. It's the Full Court Press.
Pros, hands up. Yes! Caught! Touchdown! They did it!
Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's Eric Frandsen.
A few extra commercials to start the show.
Yeah, and Jason Walker and JD Walker.
Howdy, guys.
What's up, everybody?
It's Friday, and it's beautiful outside in Cache Valley.
Yeah, it's really, really nice. And got a nice weekend, just a chance to relax. I know a lot of people with Cache Valley daily kind of going to the Four Corners. Stockton, he's going off to go watch Saints Falcons, I believe. I'm going off to Salt Lake. So we're just kind of going our separate ways to enjoy the bye week for Utah State. Just get a chance to not think about Utah State.
Take advantage of the free weekend.
Oh, I cleared the schedule. Just going to spend it up here. The weather's going to be beautiful. It looks like it's the last high 80s, low 90s for the weekend, and then the white stuff's on the way soon.
Yeah, might as well take advantage of Cache Valley's beauty while you still can. So whatever you plan on doing, whatever your weekend plans are, hope they go well. Don't break anything. Don't end up in jail.
No felonies.
No felonies.
No felonies, please. Yeah, we don't need that.
There's that one checklist to just don't do this, don't do that, don't end up in jail. Don't create any new people. Just
don't
be careful.
create any new people?
Yeah.
Do you?
It depends on who you're talking to, maybe.
Yeah.
It is homecoming week for some high school kids, so maybe take that word of advice for them.
Yeah, maybe. Be careful. Word of advice from your friendly neighborhood sports show.
Yes. Life advice here on the Full Court Press that you didn't know you needed. Okay, a couple different things we want to get through today. It's Utah State doesn't play, but there's plenty of other games on the schedule, especially in the Mountain West. So we're going to look at the weekend, not just for the Mountain West, but other games of note through college football and games that we'll be watching since we don't have an Aggie game to watch. Are there any games particularly that you're keeping an eye on? We'll hear from some Aggie football players, even though they don't play, they don't have a game. We'll hear from some of them. I had a chance to catch up with Jalen Royals and John Ross Maye after practice yesterday. They've just going to get their sense of what's the mood of the team right now after that loss at Temple, and where do they go from here? And so we'll hear from them. And there's more news about conference realignment and expansion. Of course, that's what we are, the conference realignment and expansion show.
Yeah.
Parading is the Full Court Press. So there's more news on that front. Well, there are reports on that front. It's not really news per se. So we'll continue to look at that. And some Jazz news as well, as training camps are going to be getting underway here very soon throughout the NBA. And so some early looks at the Utah Jazz, and they did make some news today. So a variety of different topics on the schedule here on the Full Court Press. And as always, we'd love to hear from you. 435-339-0321 for those of you who want to chime in and be a part of the program. But first, let's get into the Mountain West weekend coming up and taking a look at what's on the docket for the Mountain West as we're looking at week 4 or week 5 actually for some of these teams, and looking at who's playing where and if there are any big games of note. We do have we have 2 conference showdowns really. And it starts on Saturday afternoon at 1:30 on FS1 with Fresno State at UNLV. Of course, UNLV has been on the topic of 2 of the biggest issues surrounding college sports over the last few years, NIL and conference realignment.
Yeah, two for one special.
Sorry, I had your mic off while you walked away.
Yeah, 2-for-1 special with UNLV.
Right.
NIL and conference.
Forefront of both. And there's more news on UNLV today, by the way. But looking at that particular matchup, UNLV came into this earlier in the week before all this crazy news with Matthew Sluka. They entered the week as like a 4.5, 5-point favorite against Fresno State. The Sluka news hits. They take a dive, and I don't know if they ever became underdogs, but I think Fresno State pulled even with them. But sitting today on a Friday afternoon, UNLV is back up to a 2.5-point favorite. So there's a lot of distraction around UNLV, but this is a still pretty good football team. Fresno State's a pretty good football team too. This is going to be a game, I think, the game to watch in the Mountain West on the schedule. It's at 1:30 on FS1. Just because of all the noise, this one could be really interesting to tune into. But besides all that, it should be a good football game too.
It should be. We've got Malik Williams, Malik Williams is taking over the spot there. He's actually been with the team longer. And so everything I'm seeing on social media is that those players are rallying around him. So it could be a big one. And for all the realignment purposes, I think UNLV should snapshot the audience that's watching, because it's going to be higher than ever, because everybody's going to wonder how UNLV is going to recover. And then after they lay an egg, going into it, everybody will tune out. So capture that first quarter, viewer statistics, and then use that the next time you got to realign to the Saudi Arabia conference or something in 5 years.
Yeah, basically, whichever
private equity fund.
Basically, so yeah, that will be there will be a lot of views there. Definitely boost that. But yeah, just from a football sense, this is going to be incredibly interesting. A lot of people will be watching for the story of Matthew Sluka, but the fact that this is going to be a game that decides or that shakes up the hierarchy potentially, or it'll solidify what we're kind of seeing as a hierarchy. Because UNLV, if you looked at, if you took a cross section of power rankings for the Mountain West from a bunch of different people, myself included, a lot of them would have UNLV at the top. And my own Mountain West power rankings had the Rebels at the top. And we're going to see, how does Matthew Sluka, affect that? But Fresno State was one of the other. There's 4 teams at the top of the Mountain West that are all the contenders that we've sort of agreed on so far. Fresno State and UNLV are both some of those teams. So, all right, who wins? And that's going to have long-lasting implications potentially, and may end up determining tiebreakers, or who ends up in the Mountain West title game, or heck, who ends up hosting the Mountain West title game. So it is a very important matchup from a football sense, aside from everything else that's obviously incredibly interesting.
How do you guys feel Fresno State's schedule? They took the opening loss to Michigan, but they held Michigan pretty close. Now Michigan has come back to bounce back and beat USC. On the other side, UNLV's got those 2 wins over Houston, and I think the other one is Kansas State.
Kansas.
And so I know they didn't get a win against Michigan, but holding Michigan pretty close the way they did, do you see either of these teams going into this with an advantage schedule-wise when you look at their wins?
Well, UNLV looks more proven just because they have the more impressive wins. Fresno State, they lose by 20 to Michigan. I know Michigan's not this high-powered offense, so you lose by 20, you got beat soundly by Michigan. And they couldn't really get their offense going. And then the problem is their next 3 games, 46-30 against Sacramento State. I know it's a pretty decent FCS football team, but it's still FCS. Then you play New Mexico State, who at this point might as well be FCS. And then you have New Mexico, who maybe they should be there too. Football is not exactly the strong suit of the New Mexico schools, who they shut out New Mexico State 48-0, beat New Mexico 38-21. So Fresno State hasn't really proven themselves on the field versus a good opponent. They've proven themselves, and they've showed that, hey, we're just flat out better than some of the lower teams in the league, which there is value to that. Because it means you're definitely not there, but, where exactly is Fresno State? Are they that kind of middle-tier team that you'll blow out the bad teams, but then lose against the good teams? Or are they the good teams that are going to hang with most anybody in the country? It can be hard to distinguish between those two types of teams if you're just looking at how they did against bad teams, because both of those archetypes will beat bad teams. Only one will actually show up in a big game against a good opponent. So we got to figure out which of those two things Fresno State is.
If this had been a normal run-of-the-mill week of college football,
What's that?
Not anymore.
We haven't had one of those in like 5 years, Eric.
If it was traditional, I would have said, based on the resume and performances to this point, I would suggest that UNLV would and should have the edge in the matchup. They've proven themselves at home and on the road. They've beaten good teams. I think they've been more tested. Fresno State's a good team, and probably not as strong of a resume as UNLV has, but this one it has me fascinated to tune in and watch because of all the extra noise that has occurred. Is there now with the running back that also left, Coach Odom is putting his foot down about nobody in the position group is going to earn more than anybody else in their position group. Like, how does that start to affect like the feelings on the team towards their coach and their teammates? So I think this could be interesting to see how well this UNLV group stays together through all of this. Because if they play well and they win this game, then this team is pretty tight. And Sluka was kind of off on his own. But if this team falls apart, then this illustrates that there's a lot of dysfunction that's been going on under the surface here for this team.
Somebody really should have told the UNLV's assistant coaches about that policy before saying, "Oh, we'll give you $100,000 to come here." It's just.
Well, it seems assistant coach is kind of running wild because there's that Colorado story about Saudi Arabia and one of the assistants over there going overseas in the off season
and reaching out and be like, get some extra money.
And so there's kind of, how far are we going to go when, college football's got to have some rules implemented for this stuff, or we're going to see ISIS sponsoring teams and stuff like that. I mean, it's just, I know that's a ridiculous
Whoever
analogy.
writes the biggest check.
Yeah, it is. But could you imagine Vladimir Putin just saying, hey, you know what? I'm going to sponsor USC. And, the Trojans turn into the comrades or something.
Or we're going to have like a bowl game. It's the
Moscow forever.
Yeah, it's the Moscow Idaho Bowl, sponsored by the Wagner Military Group or whatever.
So that game at 1:30 on Saturday, FS1. There's another game at the same time, maybe not quite as interesting, but it'll be on CBS Sports Network. That's San Diego State at Central Michigan. The Aztecs have had a bit of a struggle under this new system and their new head coach. They're only 1-2. Central Michigan is 2-2. Not that Central Michigan, are they the Chippewas?
Yeah, the Chippewas.
I don't know that they're necessarily world beaters here, but they are favored by a point. But that's some non-conference action going on there. At 6 o'clock, New Mexico at New Mexico State, in-state rivalry. And a precursor to a future conference opponent.
There we go. Future Mountain West rivals, New Mexico and New Mexico State. I just got finished taking digs at them for should go to the FCS.
Yes.
The winner of that one leads the state with 2 wins.
Yeah. It's like, whoa, let's celebrate.
Or one, because New Mexico State has one.
Yeah,
That's
true.
true. New Mexico, they could both be 1-4
Yeah, so that'll
when the day is done.
And that's going to be, is it the toilet bowl? Is that what you
Close.
called it?
Yes.
Or just New Mexico?
I think we need to move to the outhouse there. I think that's offensive to toilets.
One of the pillow fights of the week for sure.
Basically.
6 o'clock on ESPN Plus if you're a masochist. New Mexico is favored by 8.5 in
Sorry,
this
if
one.
you're an 8.5 point dog to New Mexico, you really got to look at yourself. Like, look, we're covering Utah State. We know what a team that doesn't look very good looks like, but 8.5 point dogs to New Mexico, who's 0-4, like that's rough.
The other game at 6 that you probably will be watching or at least checking in on, that's Wyoming hosting Air Force on CBS Sports Network.
If you want to see a combined 7 total points scored.
This has been a really surprise for both of these teams, the starts that they've had. Wyoming has not won a game. Coach Sawvell has apologized to his fan base now multiple times because of poor performances. Evans Svoboda was supposed to be this, hey, watch out for this quarterback. He could be really exciting and good, and hasn't come really close to performing like that. And then Air Force has also struggled a little bit, where usually out of the gates, they're one of the teams that are hard for other opponents to figure out, and so they get up on opponents and get some wins early in their season, and they're only 1-2 so far. But that game, 6 o'clock tonight on CBS Sports Network. Air Force is favored by 3.5 in this one.
I'm hoping for Wyoming to get their first win of the season here. Like, I follow the Cowboys on their message boards and stuff, and I just feel for that fan base out there right now. But also want to see the the 2% in the Mountain West payoff take out the big boy that got the Air Force that got all the money to stay in the Mountain West. I want to see Wyoming make some noise and say, like, we're glad the Mountain West paid you all that money to stay, but we're going to take the W this week.
Yeah, well, I make the joke about a lack of offense. Air Force has 10 combined points in the last 2 games. In Wyoming, I mean, they've been technically improving in their point totals each week, going from 7 to 13 to 14 to 17, but still only
very small incremental steps.
Still averaging like 12.5 points per game or thereabouts.
That's kind of like kindergarten scoring math there. Like, you want to start multiplying some things and getting up there.
You need to add a few more to those totals. But yeah, you may see a low scoring game, or maybe both defenses struggle and maybe the offenses get going. But it will be interesting, I think, because we're going to see who's. I feel like maybe we're getting too quick on Air Force being bad. They did have a bye last week, so they have a chance to reset and maybe figure things out after a rough start. I mean, with Wyoming, we kind of know who they are at this point.
Yeah.
So Air Force still has a chance to kind of recover a little bit after a few bad games. I mean, some of their opponents, like their losses, don't look nearly as bad as they used to. Because lose to San Jose State. Well, it turns out San Jose State's pretty decent this year. Lose to Baylor. Baylor's not bad. So they're not looking, those losses don't look as bad as they did at the time. So maybe there's hope for Air Force. Maybe.
But to bookend the day, an exciting showdown at the first of the schedule for the Mountain West, and an exciting showdown at the back end of the schedule for the Mountain West, or at least Mountain West teams. That's 8:00 on FS1. Boise State hosting Washington State. Boise State is ranked in the AP poll. UNLV is ranked in the coaches poll. So the other ranked team in action tonight, Washington State, with their scheduling agreement with the Mountain West. But the Cougars, they're undefeated. Boise State, they are 2-1, but they've been very competitive in their games, even in their loss. Boise State favored by 7. That is a big surprise to me. Not that Boise's favored, but that they're favored as much as they are in this one.
Yeah, that is kind of interesting because I guess they're just a huge vote of confidence for Boise State. I guess giving them credit for that, quality loss to Oregon, so to speak. And Boise State kind of running, who is the Portland State, the FCS team they played last week, ran them out of the building almost literally with their run game, and Ashton Gianti getting like 120-something yards and like 11 carries, decent efficiency. So, yeah, I guess they assume that Washington State isn't that big of a challenge, but I don't know. Like, Washington State looks good.
So they both played Portland State. Boise State played them last week, beat them 56-14. Washington State opened the season against Portland State, beating them 70-30. Washington State has also beat Texas Tech. They also beat Washington, and they also beat a good San Jose State team. Granted, that was a wild game, went into double overtime. But this is what surprises me. This is the Cougars. This is their first road game of the season. This is the first time they have to leave Pullman. It's not that far away, but it is their first road game of the season so far.
They'd probably sleep in their own beds, wouldn't they? I mean, it's not that far across to do the adventure there. But what I'm excited about, too, is that this is a future preview of Pac-12 After Dark for us to check out.
There you go.
Washington State, Boise State, and the fans online are great. The Cougar fans have been so awesome towards the Aggies and stuff, everything I've seen. But Boise State, that's why I'm going to root for the Washington State Cougars this time. But I am looking forward to seeing if Washington State's for real or not. I mean, I don't really have much love for the Oregon State Beavers, but Washington State, I've watched them pull that program together. Mike Leach back in the day, the air raid offense, Drew Bledsoe, some of the huge talent that they've had come out of there. And they're just, I think this is going to be a real tough challenge for Boise State. I want to see how Genty does against that front seven of Washington State. Might be the biggest front line that he faces all year. So it could be a really interesting game. That's the one I'm looking forward to on Saturday night.
And this is a huge one for Boise, more so than I think for Washington State, because Washington State, they've got some decent signature wins. You got the Texas Tech, Washington. even beating San Jose State, that may be more of a statement win if San Jose State continues to be good. Boise State doesn't really have that statement win yet.
No.
They need to get that to establish their and I know they are ranked in the AP poll, so they've already kind of earned that. But if
but where else on their schedule, guys? This is going to have to be it. You got us next: Hawaii, UNLV, San Diego State, Nevada.
Yeah,
there's no other marquee teams on that schedule to kind of get them convinced to be that special playing.
Yeah,
spot.
Potentially UNLV.
Yeah, potentially UNLV. But if that's the only one the rest of the way, they need this because they're going to be fighting some other G5 teams to be that highest ranked team.
Right.
So they really need to win this game to be able to make sure they continue an upward trend so that they can have some of these big wins on their schedule and not have their most impressive game be a close loss to Oregon.
So Boise State, we're presuming, would be the one there. So that second challenger for that Mountain West Championship game to mean something, to project hopefully into bowls, into the college playoff picture for one of those teams if they make it, UNLV is going to have to be ranked too, or that second Mountain West team is going to have to be ranked a little bit to make that Mountain West Championship kind of add to that quality win. Is that an idea that makes sense to you guys?
Yeah, they need to illustrate that they're coming from a position of strength. If they just rolled through a weak conference schedule, against a bunch of teams that aren't going to qualify for bowls, then the voters aren't going to look at them too favorably. They need at least one or two other programs from the conference to look like a decent program to say, okay, yeah, you did play and beat some decent teams on your way to this ranking. But you're right, UNLV right now is standing as the really only other game on their schedule. Who knows? Oregon State might make it somewhat interesting, but that game on October 25th could loom very large for both teams in their trying to build their resumes for the college football playoff.
Yeah, because they're pandering to a human committee, and so you got to pander to the eye test, and they're going to look at that schedule, and it's got to look good. It doesn't matter if you're rolling up on teams, 50 to 10. They want to see you beat good teams, or if there's another G5 team, because that's the thing. You're not just because you win the Mountain West doesn't get you an automatic bid. It's the highest. Well, the 5 highest conference champions. Presumably, it's 4 P5 plus the highest G5 champion. So if somebody else out of the group of 5 ends up higher than you because maybe they have a better schedule, then all right, good luck.
Yeah,
you'd have to have help at that point. Hope that other teams lose. So if you're Boise State, you want to control your destiny, and if they win out, then they probably would be that final playoff. But that include decent wins over Washington State, Oregon State, UNLV, plus one other in the championship game, presumably.
8 o'clock on FS1 Saturday night to close out Mountain West Conference action. Before we hit a break, we're overdue. We'll set a timeout, and then we'll come back. Any other non-Mountain West Conference games worth noting or paying attention to for this weekend that you'll be watching? Since there's no Aggie game, so who are you going to watch? So I'd love to get your thoughts on that. 435-339-0321. And we'll hear from some of the Utah State football players about what they're doing this bye week and how they're trying to move forward despite that difficult loss at Temple. Interviews with John Ross Maye and Jalen Royals coming up on the Full Court Press.
This is Brent Wallace with Cache Valley Bank, and we understand that concerns about fraud can weigh heavily on you. Your peace of mind is important to us. That's why we're committed to looking out for you and your family. Our team keeps a vigilant eye on your account, and if you ever have concerns or need support, we're just a call or visit away. Whether you need advice or just someone to talk to, our friendly staff is ready to help. We're more than just a bank. We're your neighbors, and we care about your security. Visit your local branch today. Cache Valley Bank, member FDIC.
Cold weather is here, which means you'll be using your gas fireplace again. Let Advanced Fireplace and Stove, the 4-time Best of Northern Utah Gold Medal winner, help you get it ready for those cold Cache Valley winters. Schedule a service call with one of their service pros today and receive 20% off when you mention this ad. If you're building a new home, Advanced Fireplace and Stove can design and install a Napoleon fireplace. From traditional to modern, Napoleon has something for every design and every budget. Find out more at advancedfireplaceandstove.com.
Now here's a concept. you earmark 1/3 of your profits to go back into the community, to local charities. Dex Imaging does that. My name is Anthony Wagoner, and I'd like to share with you what I know about Dex, the company that acquired Valley Office Systems. Dex Imaging is committed to continuing quality customer service while raising the bar to become a strong community partner. Join us in creating the brightest image for tomorrow. Contact us at deximaging.com.
This is Kyle at Advanced Door, and we guarantee every garage door we install for a lifetime, parts and labor. That's every door, every spring, every roller, every track, every motor. The entire garage door system guaranteed for a lifetime, parts and labor. We're Advanced Door, and we guarantee you'll be hearing this for a long time. Find out more at advanced-door.com. That's advanced-door.com.
The Full Court Press. Connect with us on Facebook, Twitter, and online at 1069thefan.com.
Welcome back to the Full Court Press. Eric Frandsen, Jason Walker, J.D. Walker. Love to have you part of the program as well. 435-339-0321. Actually did get text from 9315, a couple of texts from 9315.
I think 3 of them.
Which is normally the case. They usually come in bunches.
Yeah.
Let's see. The Boo Birds of the Mountain West are starting to show up now that teams are leaving the Mountain West. Just because a Pac team that is leaving does not mean you fan boos will help you.
Yeah, I know there's some. There's going to be a lot of boos, for leaving the Mountain West. I tell you, media days is going to be the most awkward thing ever. Going up and saying, "Hi, I'm covering Utah State, San Jose State head coach. Let me talk to you about the Mountain West this year."
I actually called some of my old mob friends down in Vegas. We're going to send you with an entourage. You're going to be good.
There we go.
Yeah,
all
there
right.
we go.
Be safe, especially if I interview Gloria Navarez. Just make sure
Yeah.
you're not staring daggers.
So
at
how
me,
are
just
you today?
Let's talk about Utah State. And she just
think
I
we
would-
need
that
to
would
have
be-
Let's
video
talk about the
on
crown jewels of the Mountain West in basketball. Utah State and San Diego State.
yeah.
Let's see, another couple of texts here. It's a picture of a girl looking into the
I
distance.
think it was a GIF and they threw something. I don't know.
I don't know. A live look into the higher up in New Mexico. Send the word to the 10 fans about booing the new Pac teams when in town with their state-of-the-art notifications system of carrier pigeons
Oh, my God.
bought without the extra money from the Mountain West. Signed, Lobos United.
I don't know. There's a few more than 10 fans at the pit.
Yeah. If you're talking basketball, they're there.
Yeah, football, they're not really there as much.
They're united and they're rabid.
Oh, at the basketball, that place, I've been a couple times to watch UNLV basketball. I will never take young children there again.
About to say, the only way you'd have only 10 fans from Mexico is if you had it in North Korea, at which point they just find a way to get in.
Yeah, they'd still find a way. Basketball. They
have a-
travel well.
Great basketball environment there.
The last one, and I just read them as I get them. I hope the Donkeys fall flat on their faces this weekend with the way their social media fans act towards Utah State.
Yeah, there's a weird mix of how social media is treating some of the incoming
Oh, yeah.
teams in the Pac-12. Oregon, I'm hearing some of the secondhand because I don't have a broad following of some of these other teams like Oregon State, Washington State. I barely follow anyone in that sphere. I follow some Boise State, handful of San Diego State, but the reports seem to be the Oregon State fans are kind of toxic. Washington State fans are amazing. Boise State's just always salty toward Utah State. I don't know why, because they beat Utah State every year in football. There's no reason for them to be salty. Maybe they just take after Leon Rice.
Yeah.
But I think they were just kind of upset that Utah State got in. San Diego State seems to have been pretty chill about it, though.
Yeah, everybody else seems to be cool, but I could tell you from great experience that Oregon State fans have an inferiority complex. They've always been little brother in that state. The Civil War is the rivalry with the Ducks, and it's 182 to 3 and a tie back in 1908. But they're pretty salty, and they're just going after everybody. But you're right. Washington State's been really friendly. I see a cool kind of rivalry going there. San Diego State's been cool. But Boise's really got some hate for us. And it's kind of shaped. I have to step back sometimes because it kind of shapes. I'm like, don't say that about the Aggies and the fans, man. We're going to come with pitchforks and torches.
I mean, it's just illogical anyway. Those people have gone in this collective delusion that the blue field actually looks good, and I think it's just affected some of their other, feelings. They need to take a step back, realize that we're mostly all on the same side, except when we're on the field. You can cheer for your team and engage in some, at least hopefully, witty trash talk.
Yeah,
not just
not a lot of
boring
witty stuff coming out of Boise or Corvallis.
Well, the weird thing is with Oregon State, like you mentioned, like the little brother complex. Like Utah State has that to like the extreme. They should be best buddies.
Yeah, but I don't see the toxic nature going towards other fan bases. I mean, there was Utah Hate Week, and I do see things about BYU.
Yeah, there's nothing really
stuff,
toxic coming out of Utah State. Like there's Utah State fans getting a little big for their britches with this Pac-12 thing, and it's a little cringy, but like, okay, whatever. It's not that big of a deal. It's not toxic. It's just
for a fan base that's been on the outside looking in several times and had to deal with stuff, it's nice to be included for once. Let them toot their horn all they want.
Yeah, so I'm not going to get in their way. You want to celebrate. But, yeah.
And if you run over an Oregon State or a Boise State fan in the process, hey, so be it.
Let's switch gears a little bit. I had a chance to get up to practice yesterday to talk to Jalen Royals and John Ross Maye. I did not intend for this, but both of these athletes have the number 1 on their jersey.
Eric's only talking to number 1. He's only got time for the number 1.
Yes, apparently so. Just to get a sense, offensively and defensively, kind of where this team is at, just kind of get a feel for the emotion and the attitude of the team. So let's first hear from Jalen Royals. He's having a solid season so far. I mean, he had 15 touchdown receptions last year. He's only had 2 so far this season, but he is wide receiver number 1. He is the main target for this Utah State offense. And so got a chance to catch up with him and kind of gauge how he's feeling, how the team is doing, and how they're approaching this bye week.
What's been the mood of the team after a tough loss at Temple? You got the bye week this week. What's kind of been the mood of the team so far this week?
I think everybody's been a little more motivated, Coming off a loss is tough, we played. And I think, coming into this bye week, we know that, we're going to have a great team with Boise, and we have to come strong and can't give up easy plays. So we've just been a lot more motivated.
What kind of role have you kind of taken or do you think you need to take as a senior on the team, but somebody who also produces a lot on the field? Do you feel like you have to step up and do anything different to help lead the team in any way?
Well, of course, lead, like I have been. But, just trying to keep the guys, up accountable and upheld and trying to, get them boys right to, keep playing. And it's a tough season, so we don't have to come and play. So, yeah.
Have you after the loss on Saturday, Coach Strouling said that he hopes this loss stings a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Are you still feeling that sting?
Oh, yeah, a little bit. But, it's last week, almost 2 weeks ago, going to be. So, I'm just on to the next, Boise's next opponent. So that's what I'm focused on right now.
You guys have a chance to kind of wipe the slate clean a little bit when you just turn your attention to conference play specifically. You're 0-0 in conference play.
Yeah.
So we may be looking a little bit too far ahead to Boise specifically, but kind of what's the feeling about kind of turning things around and focusing just on conference play now?
This is, great to look ahead and just, knowing we're still 0-0, and at the end of the day, we can still win the Mountain West. So that's just the main focus right now.
You have you're tied for 8th in touchdown receptions in Utah State history. You hit that mark on Saturday. And what's that mean to you to be among some of the greats that have ever played in an Aggie uniform?
That means a lot, coming here and just playing. It's definitely mean a lot to me. Last season I had 15, which is a lot, and then this season I only have like 2 right now. But I think it should come, and it's definitely a great accomplishment for me.
And then kind of last question is that maybe circling back on this bye week, sometimes there's an opportunity to kind of reset, maybe take a step back from football a minute, or sometimes guys like double down during that time and refocus or work harder. What's kind of been your attitude or the feeling and direction from the coaching staff?
For me, I've just been, kind of stepping back, seeing where we struggled last, see where we lack at, and just knowing where, we need to improve in, and just, practice-wise, knowing how get our different routes, for receivers or, ball placement for quarterbacks, and then just hitting the holes for the running back and just knowing your assignments. So I feel like for me, I have stepped back, but I feel like as a team, we definitely umped it up a little bit and got it ready.
Awesome. Well, best of luck here in a week and a half.
Thank you.
So there's Jalen Royals. He's having a solid season so far. Like, he is the main target, you can tell, from Spencer Petras or Bryson Barnes, either one. Very dynamic wide receiver for Utah State. Would like to see Utah State go a little bit more vertical to utilize his speed and his skills. But generally, my sense speaking with him was that the team is frustrated by the loss, but they're not down. And the bye week comes at a good time as they get to reset for conference play. But letting that sting a little bit, letting them remember that loss and how it felt, and they don't want to feel that way anymore.
It's got to be difficult, something to sit with for 2 weeks, but great motivation for Boise State. And, with fans enough, we have all the other outside stuff and, of course, the disappointment of the loss. But for them to really, DJ really helped me with that mindset. He's been a guest with us on Aggie Call a couple times this year. And he's like, you know what? We learn from it, we move on, and then we're excited for the next opportunity to get out there. And, I've changed my focus, was looking at kind of because we're a third of the way through the season for Utah State. And there's some pretty big years that guys are having as you project out to see how they're doing. Russell Faison, Royals, those guys, Kyrese White. So there's a lot of bright points and a lot of stuff to build on. And Boise State's coming up, and we know anything can happen. So,
yeah, the Aggies just need to take a step up. Like, it's just, you got to play better than you've been playing, one way or the other. If it takes a bye week to get that done, if it took losing to Temple to finally, get it through your head that, hey, you can't keep making these dumb mistakes because you can't go out there and just assume you're going to beat somebody. You should never be doing that, but sometimes you got to learn that lesson the hard way. If they did, then all power to them. They can finish out the season strong. We can forget about this first third of the season.
You know what? Me and Jason should do a show called Sunshine and Rain. I'll be all optimistic, and Jason will bring us to the reality of the point because I believe in fairies and stuff like that. But
I try to be optimistic at times. I try and not be pessimistic, but you got to give me reasons to be optimistic. If you start taking away those reasons, then I'm not going to go to bat for you. like I want the Aggies to play well, want them to see them do good, but don't give me this many reasons to not believe that you're going to play well.
You'd mentioned, JD, that some individuals are playing well, and there are some bright spots, and one of those is John Ross Maye, a newcomer to this team.
Such a stud.
He is, I believe, second on the team in tackles on the season so far.
Yeah, to a guy who's like seventh in the country in tackles, Jordan Vincent.
Yeah.
So the guy he's second to is not. It was very impressive.
Yes, so he's doing very well in his own right. But I had a chance to catch up with him as well after practice yesterday.
John Ross Maye, you're off to a good start this season personally. You're one of the leading tacklers on this team. Let's just start there with your role on this team and kind of how you're kind of rolled into a pretty significant role so far early on.
Yes, sir. I think, this team is definitely something that we didn't know we were going to get coming into the season. I think, Coach Jalen, Coach McMillan, defensive staff, they really believed in me and they entrusted in me. And I think that my role has just only been able to come about because of their belief in me and who I am as a player and a person.
How has it been for you, like, adapting to this level?
To be honest, it's great from an opportunity standpoint. I think this is something that everyone dreams of when you're a kid. I feel like adapting to it, there hasn't been a huge change. People are a little bit bigger, a little bit faster, but D2 has some good football, and I feel like there's a lot of people that can play here too.
So you're a senior.
Yes, sir.
You're a newcomer to the team, but how do you kind of develop as a senior leader with this team? I know there's a lot of new guys on the team with transfers and things like that too, but how are you kind of establishing yourself as a leader on this team early on?
For sure. Coming into a team with a bunch of new transfers and stuff like that, obviously everyone's open for leadership, and I feel like we have our captains, but at the end of the day, everyone can be a leader. We're all older guys. I started 40 games before I even came here. And I think that just walking into it, there's no limit to your leadership role. And I think for me, like, just finding it is, I want everyone to see how I work, and then they can see that I work hard, and I can earn respect that way. And then after that, now I can start getting with people and building that. I've always built a relationship with them to just know that, hey, I don't mean any harm, but I'm sitting here and I'm trying to tell you so we as a team can get better and progress.
After the loss at Temple, Coach Dreiling said he hopes this stings for a while. Are you still feeling the sting of that loss?
Every day. I'm a person who hates to lose. I hate it with a passion. And I think this whole team is, this bye week we've come out and we've just been ready to attack every day one by one.
So I wanted to follow up on that. Just how has this bye week progressed so far for the team, and what's the attitude and the mood of the team so far this week?
The attitude and the mood is just we have stuff to prove still. We have yet to play a complete game, and we know that this bye week we've taken every day hard, and Coach Jalen has wanted this to be a hard week of practice for us, and so he wants to go full throttle, and we're going to follow his leadership all the way.
You get a chance to kind of reset the script a little bit when you turn your attention to just conference play next week. I know we may be getting a little bit ahead of ourselves, but what's kind of the attitude about getting ready for Boise State and Mountain West Conference play?
For Mountain West, all of our goals are still ahead of us. We have yet to lose a conference game. We're not at the start that we want, but we're still 0-0 in the conference. And we know that we can go ahead and make this opening push and make our statement this week or next week with Boise. And that's what we're looking to do.
Have you had a chance to kind of step back for a second through this bye week, or is it more like doubling down and getting ready?
I think right after the loss, everyone took a step back just to really reevaluate themselves. You look in the mirror and you decide, okay, how do we want to go? There's two paths we can go. We can either give up or we can go ahead and make it right and do what we want to do and win this Mountain West championship. I think some of the leaders came together and we've all took that step back, and we've came back in the mirror the next day and we all had a conversation of, hey, we're going to go do this and we're going to win this Mountain West championship.
Awesome. John Ross Maye, thanks so much.
Thank you.
He's one of the leaders on the defense, a newcomer to the team, but making an impact so far, and trying to keep his teammates upbeat and focused and dialed in. That hey, look, there's still a lot to play for. Yeah, it's disappointing the start so far, but there's there are things that need to be addressed. Clearly, they haven't put a full game together. They recognize that, but they're also not getting down on themselves and kind of a woe is me attitude. There was generally pretty good feeling as the team was coming off the practice field yesterday when I was up there.
I mean, conference play opening up and anything's possible on the route to a Mountain West championship or a run for that, putting things together. I like John Ross Maye. He's one of those high-octane guys on defense that impacts everybody around, and I feel like he raises their talent level or their energy level. We saw him get into a little scuffle early in the Temple game out there, and it was just fun seeing him surrounded by a bunch of the opposing jerseys. And, man, he was not backing down, and he's just all fired up. One of my favorite kind of players on the defense.
Yeah, like I said, if they I could maybe tie this back to the New England Patriots. I always try and do this. You'd have the New England Patriots have these every year. They'd have a week where they just were terrible, and they'd lose to somebody they shouldn't lose to. And if you want to be optimistic here, this will be my optimistic moment, JD. The Patriots would have that game where they lost to a team they had no business losing to. These the Tom Brady years where they're winning 13, 14 games a year. Then they'd go, to the Super Bowl that year after losing to like the Browns or the Bills or somebody. And you'd have that week, you had Bill Belichick on to Cincinnati. They had no business losing to Cincinnati, but I think they went to the Super Bowl that very year because they had a bad game. There was also that year they got absolutely trucked by the Chiefs. And people are saying this is the end of the dynasty. They won the Super Bowl that year. And, for Utah State, if they can just get out of whatever funk they're in, then, like I said, all power to them. Bowl game, Mountain West Championship, all that's there for them. Pretty much every one of their season goals is still there, but it's going to have to happen soon. That's kind of thing. There is an urgency. They get no more mulligans. They've thrown away all their extra chances. Now's when they have to pull this off, and they need to buy into Nate Drelling's system, buy in, execute, don't slow down, and the coaches need to make sure they improve too. They need to make sure they're ready. They need to make sure they make the in-season adjustments. If all that happens, then sky's the limit. If not, then we're going to spend the rest of the week, trying to play the optimist.
You didn't mention the Are You Mad Bro game when Richard Sherman picked off Tom Brady in Seattle, but we'll get to all those moments in our career. But it's one of those things where we've seen the first 4 games of the season how they came out. None of the games are complete games. The best one we saw, I think, was the game plan against Utah for the first half. You can't have any more of those. You have to execute each game because if you end up, losing the next, quarter of the season, it's over.
Yeah, that's it. And if you get to the point where you're 1-6, 1-7, then you're at huge risk of having the team just give up and start thinking about next season. And even the coaching staff thinking about next season. So you cannot reach that point or it's going to be a disaster.
It would be hard because the coaching staff thinking about next season with this team, isn't here in Logan, is what I'm kind of assuming.
Yeah, like everyone's looking to next season at their new stop.
Yeah.
They're the not Logan place that they're going to go to.
All right, we got to take a timeout here in the Full Court Press. Still love to get your thoughts and reactions to the interviews that we heard from John Ross Maye, Jalen Royals. How would you be feeling for the Utah State football team in this bye week after that disappointing loss and having an extra week to stew on a really disappointment? And Temple played last night, and they got rolled over by Army.
That doesn't make me feel any better about this, Eric.
It does like 400 yards in rushing or something.
Well, Army does that to everyone.
They do that
when they lose.
Yeah. But what we saw last night did not match what we saw the Saturday before out of Temple. It's frustrating. So we'll continue that discussion next on the Full Court Press.
Love is what we live for. Love is timeless, never-ending. Love is when you say your name with hers and it has that special ring to it. At Jarek's Fine Jewelry, we know what love is. Our fine collection of engagement rings feature a variety of diamonds and colorful styles.
And if you can't find your perfect ring,
Jarek's Fine Jewelry will help custom design one that is the perfect fit. When it's love, it's Jarek's Fine Jewelry.
Jarek's Fine Jewelry. Make it special. Make it Jarek's.
Nothing better than a great song from 1976. Hi, this is Bob Larson with LSS Insurance, and I'm talking to you, graduating class of 76. Even if you're still working or getting ready to retire, Medicare is a conversation we need to have. Let us help you understand Medicare and all your options. Don't rely on TV ads or annoying phone calls. Having a local agent makes all the difference. Call LSS at 752-9493. Call 752-9493.
Have you thought about your furnace lately? Of course not. It's hot outside. Now's a great time to start thinking about replacing it or having it serviced for fall and winter. Advanced Heating and Air will help you get some of the industry's best rebates on a new high-efficient York furnace installed in your home. Or one of Advanced Heating and Air's service professionals can service your furnace for the upcoming winter season. Call today, 752-7272, or schedule a free estimate at advancedheating-ac.com. York, install confidence.
Fall is here. This is Mark at the Sportsman on Main Street. I invite you into our amazing store to see the new fall collection of amazing clothing, shoes, and outerwear for women and men. We have brands like Cool, Fiore, Fjallraven, and we have brought in some new brands from Europe that you will love. Trust me, you will look truly unique in whatever you buy from the Sportsman. Come in and let us take care of you. You'll be glad you did. For over 75 years, come and see us at the Sportsman on Main in downtown Logan with tons of parking in the back.
Need a reliable partner for your medical needs? Look no further than Triton Medical and Transportation. We offer top quality medical soft goods right here in your community. From incontinence supplies and oxygen needs to medical transportation. Whatever you need to stay comfortable and healthy, we've got you covered. Trust Triton Medical and Transportation, caring for our community with every step, every mile. Call us today at 435-557-6687 or visit us online at mytritonsupply.com. Triton Medical and Transportation, because your help matters.
Hi, I'm Jay Broadbent with Alpine Home Medical. I'd like to invite you to learn more about us. Since 1997, we've been Utah's premier one-stop shop for home medical equipment. What sets us apart at Alpine Home Medical is the superior level of customer service. We provide home oxygen, CPAPs, wheelchairs, scooters, breast pumps, and so much more. Come on down and get to know us.
Alpine Home Medical, we bring wellness home.
Visit alpinehomemedical.com.
Talking the sports you care about. The Full Court Press on Sports Talk Radio, 106.9 FM, 1390 AM. The Fan.
Snow, ice, cold weather. They're hard on your wiper blades, and it's not that far away. I know it feels awesome right now and through this weekend. It's great. Next week will still be nice as well, but it will be here before too long, the cold weather. So Napa features long-lasting silicone wiper blades from Rain-X and Trico. Stop in for a new set. They'll even help you install them. Napa Auto Parts, locally owned from Preston to Providence. Guys, hang tight here. We've got something new, some breaking news. We need to pause and break away from the Full Court Press to this.
We've got some significant breaking news tonight.
We got some breaking news. The latest in conference realignment on the Conference Realignment and Expansion Show.
Yes, that is the true name of the show, parading from time to time as the Full Court Press. The latest developments are that the Mountain West is engaging in conversations with Toledo and Northern Illinois as football-only members. Now, the Mountain West needs to get to 8 full members. Currently, they are at 6. We can't look at Hawaii there. They need to get to 8 full members to be considered a conference from the NCAA. But they continue to, apparently they're skipping that and just going to add to football and engaging in conversations with Northern Illinois and Toledo.
Holy Toledo. I'm sorry. Had to be thrown out there.
I don't know. I feel like it's the Mountain West just trying to make a very attractive football brand. They're saying, look, football drives the money, and that's what we're going to do. We're going to find the best football programs we can and just roll with that, I guess. We'll see how that works. They still need to add full-time members, 2 of them. But it seems they're just trying to get their football brand high enough, and not too. They're 2 solid programs to do so. Northern Illinois has been a pretty solid G5 team for a while, and Toledo not bad themselves. So
don't they? They had that Notre Dame win a little bit earlier.
Yeah,
this
they
year.
did.
Yeah, so.
And they've had some good players. They had a guy who finished like 3rd in the Heisman voting like 5, 6, 7 years ago. So, solid team. It's a ways away, but I mean the Utah State was in a conference with Louisiana Tech for a while in the WAC, so it's not like it's crazy far away.
So I wonder if this signals that the Mountain West feels like they already have their 2 full members close. But wouldn't you go there first? Wouldn't you try to get to 8 first and then just add from there? So it just seems like a weird move that you wouldn't try to secure your conference's future with having your full allotment before you start extending additional invitations. Now, getting to for both the Pac-12 or the Mountain West, 8, that's your minimum. But today, I think you need to be at 10 schools to be a healthy conference. And so can they get there? Can either conference get there without having to dip into the FCS? I don't know. It's possible, but then you're rating or inviting schools that don't really have that same valuation, and how much do they really help you? You're slicing the pie more ways for some institutions that maybe don't really help you grow the pie. And that's really what you want to be looking at as a conference is how can we grow this? How can we expand this instead of just slice what we have up in more portions?
Yeah, I don't know. We'll see. It's a difficult direction that both the Pac-12 and Mountain West have to face and we had these conversations back before it was announced the Utah State was going. It's like, look, you're going to have to add teams that maybe you're not super thrilled about adding, that you may not feel like you're going to really add a ton. But that's a sticky situation the Pac-12 and Mountain West got themselves in by not being able to agree on a merger. You have 2 conferences that are going to feel incomplete, and at some point for them to be, you mentioned having at least the 10 teams, like to be those healthy conferences with 10, 12 teams, they're going to have to bring on teams and then elevate those teams up. Because if Mountain West adds a Sacramento State, they're going to have to elevate them. Mountain West is going to have to help. Obviously, those teams are going to have to put in the investment. But there are no teams that are ready-made for the Mountain West or Pac-12 right now. Those just don't exist. And that's just kind of the situation that you're in.
I feel like we're back on the 5th grade basketball court, and I know a lot about this because I was generally picked last or second to last, and we're down to like those last 5 or 6 kids between the 2 team captains that are trying to pick, and you're trying to say which guy do I really want on my team that's not going to cause us to go down. So that getting some flashbacks there at the playground.
Yeah, maybe there's a little bit of that, or you're overvaluing like. We're in a bidding war for Texas State. I mean, wow. So I don't know if we're really there, but quickly from 9315, it feels like the Mountain West is saying that we have our members first. So what if not best for our members that have no monies? Yeah. Okay. I don't know. I mean, the other thing too is that the Mountain West does have a longer on-ramp to figure out their conference kind of whatever their alignment's going to look like, their conference membership, because they'll have 2 years after 2026 to get up to 8. The Pac-12 needs to get to 8 by 2026. So the Mountain West has a much longer lead time to figure out what their next steps are to get to full conference membership. So we'll talk about that more next on the Full Court Press.
I'm Dan Patrick, and this is Above the Noise. In the NFL, a win is a win no matter how ugly it may be. But even in a victory over a divisional rival last night, the Cowboys didn't look dominating. Dallas can't run the football, so they have now relied on a short, intermediate passing game. But that kind of passing game isn't a replacement for the ground game. Much like teams relying on the long ball in baseball, there is a risk that becomes involved with putting the ball in the air in short-distance situations. In a game that's dominated by the turnover battle, that can cost you a few games over the stretch of 18 weeks. And if Dallas continues to rely on the wide receiver to be their most effective man out of the backfield, Dallas may be in for a rude awakening when they face one of the league's more daunting schedules to come. With the Steelers, Lions, Niners, and Eagles and Texans coming up, I'm Dan Patrick, and this is Above the Noise.